On the 595th day of the war in Ukraine, the fighting was concentrated in these areas. Today, Ukrainian sources provided more information on the massive ongoing offensive of the Russian army in the Avdiivka sector. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the Russian army, with a force of at least 3 battalions, supported by many tanks and armored vehicles, attacked the Ukrainian stronghold of Avdiivka and the nearby settlements located north and southeast of the town. Thanks to the newly published footage and geolocations, now we have a clearer picture of the events that took place during the last few hours on this front. Based on this information, we can see that Russian forces concentrated their offensive operations in 3 main directions. Geolocated footage confirms that large Russian armored convoys were detected moving north of Avdiivka in the vicinity of Krasnohorivka, as well as southeast near the Pisky-Vodiane road. Ukrainian drones spotted massive armored convoys, one of which was made up of at least 25 tanks and armored vehicles, which, backed by the support of other units, as well as artillery, helicopters and aviation, attempted to make a decisive push north and south of Avdiivka near Stepove and Sievierne respectively. In the north, the mechanized units of the Russian army tried to break through the Ukrainian defense in 2 main directions. Geolocated footage proves that a part of the mechanized units tried to storm the Ukrainian positions near Stepove by launching a quick attack through the fields east of the railway. However, according to the latest reports, it seems that in this direction the Russian forces were not able to break through the Ukrainian defenses, as clashes are still ongoing near the railway. In the areas west of Krasnohorivka, Russians lost at least 3 tanks and 1 BMP-1 infantry fighting vehicle. What is interesting to see is that during their mission to attack near Stepove, both Russian tanks ran over a line of mines which are clearly visible from the Ukrainian drones. It is unclear why the Russian forces were not able to see the mines, but according to some Ukrainian sources, expecting a possible offensive of the Russian forces in this direction, Ukrainian forces might have mined the entire area quickly during the previous night without making much effort to cover them. Perhaps knowing this area to be cleared of the mines, Russian forces went on a blind and quick attack that had fatal consequences for them, as they lost at least 1 T-62M and 1 T-80 BVM tank. The other Russian attack took place south of Krasnohorivka, where a massive convoy made up of at least 25 tanks and armored vehicles was seen moving towards the waste hill northeast of Avdiivka's chemical plant. It seems that the Russian forces were attempting to use their powerful mechanized unit to seize the strategic heights north of Avdiivka and possibly even try to enter the northern outskirts of the town itself. However, there are still no reports of a major Russian success in this direction. Most of the sources on both sides agree that the gray area north of Avdiivka has expanded, but there is still no evidence that the Russian forces managed to establish control over this area. In fact, being forced to move on a narrow road, the massive Russian convoy was subject to the Ukrainian artillery fire, who kept striking the Russian units along the entire road. At the moment, the situation is still covered by the fog of war, but Ukrainian sources said that during this operation, the Russian army lost at least 2 tanks and 3 armored vehicles. The Russian army also made great efforts in the southern part of the front line, in the area between Vodiane and Sievierne. Ukrainian drone units spotted a large number of armored vehicles and hundreds of Russian infantry forces trying to advance north towards the village of Sievierne. Ukrainian artillery was seen shelling the entire road between the 2 villages, as well as the nearby buildings where more Russian forces were hiding. Russian mechanized units advanced north and moved through the tree lines, attempting to reach the village of Sievierne. However, from geolocated footage, we can see that in this direction the Russian forces lost at least 5 armored vehicles. After damaging the armored vehicles using artillery and ATGM fire, Ukrainian forces were also seen using cluster munition on the dismounted Russian troops, causing very heavy casualties among their ranks. From the geolocated footage we have so far, it seems that only 1 armored personnel carrier of the Russian forces managed to advance near Sievierne, where it landed about 13 soldiers southeast of the village. To reduce the pressure in this part of the front line, it seems that the Ukrainian forces managed to organize counterattacks in the areas west of Vodiane and east of Pervomaiske. Geolocated footage proves that the Russian army was forced to deploy artillery and troops on their western flank, shelling Pervomaiske and engaging a part of their forces to meet the advancing Ukrainian forces west of Vodiane, where it seems that the Russians lost 2 more armored vehicles. Friends, if you like my daily updates, I kindly ask you to hit the like and subscribe buttons, as this will greatly help the channel to reach a wider audience. That's all for today's update. Thank you to my Patreon supporters and have a great day.